There's a reason some of the most brilliant survival tools disappear from public memory. Not because they failed, but because they were so effective, so brutally simple, and so widely used that once the war ended, armies quietly boxed them up and moved on. Today, we're digging into one of those forgotten battlefield workhorses. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button, because if you're a serious history buff or a prepper who appreciates real proven fieldcraft, this is exactly the kind of knowledge that strengthens your skills and your library. Let's start with why this tiny battlefield stove mattered more than most people ever realized. During the First World War, the average soldier wasn't worrying about large, elaborate campfires. They were worried about staying alive long enough to heat a cup of tea or warm up tinned rations without drawing fire. The trenches weren't forgiving. Smoke could get you spotted by snipers, rising flames were an invitation for artillery, and carrying excess fuel was dead weight a soldier simply couldn't afford. That's where the trench stove, sometimes called the Tommy cooker, became indispensable. It was a small folding or compact burner designed specifically for low smoke, low signature cooking. It didn't make a soldier comfortable, it made them functional. And in the First World War, that was everything. The real reason the stove became one of the most important survival tools of the war is its deceptive simplicity. These stoves relied on solidified alcohol blocks or hexamen-like fuel that burned quietly, consistently, and without billowing smoke. Soldiers could crouch in a trench, shield the flame with their helmet, and heat water in a mess tin within minutes. No chopping wood, no gathering kindling under shell fire, no glowing bonfire revealing their position. The stove was engineered for desperation. Lightweight metal, collapsible frame, and fuel you could carry in your pocket. And the best part, it always worked. Rain, mud, or freezing temperatures didn't matter because the stove didn't rely on wet tinder or airflow. As long as you had the fuel block and a spark, you had a meal or a hot drink coming. Understanding how it actually functioned gives you a new appreciation for simple survival engineering. The trench stove wasn't built for efficiency by modern standards. It was built to work in chaos. The soldier placed the solid fuel tablet on a metal plate or inside a tiny holder. Once lit, it produced a steady flame, strong enough to heat a small pot or boil water. The stove's sides or folding panels trapped heat and shielded the flame from the wind. Even if a soldier had only one fuel tablet left, they could stretch it by shaving slivers off to create multiple small heating sessions. It wasn't glamorous, but it was reliable, predictable, and tactical. There's a reason survivalists today still recreate versions of this World War I stove for field use. Its practicality translates flawlessly into modern prepping. If you're hiking, bugging out, or setting up a minimalist camp, this stove is still one of the most dependable methods you can carry. You can build your own using a simple metal tin, a foldable windshield, and commercially available hexamine blocks or gel fuel. In fact, try this on your next field exercise. Pack only a small metal cup, a foldable stove, and 3 fuel tablets. You'll quickly realize why soldiers relied on it. It forces you to cook efficiently, conserve fuel, and master quiet heat. And unlike propane systems, it won't fail in cold weather or desert heat. The stove's real genius wasn't in the flame. It was in how it changed soldier behavior. In the trenches, soldiers could prepare food without exposing themselves. A small stove meant warm drinks that kept morale up during freezing nights. In survival terms today, that translates to controlled energy usage. If you're in a long-term emergency situation, the last thing you want is to burn through your wood supply or create a plume of smoke that attracts the wrong attention. This stove teaches discipline. It teaches controlled heat, precision, and resourcefulness. It teaches restraint at a time when most people panic and waste resources. It also shows how military necessity often creates tools civilians overlook. After World War I, armies scaled up their supply chains, technology improved, and gas burners became standard issue. The old trench stove became obsolete. Not because it stopped working, but because peacetime logistics allowed for more comfortable options. This is the part where most historians miss the practical lesson. The disappearance of the trench stove wasn't tied to its failure. It was tied to convenience. And in prepping, convenience is your greatest vulnerability. Tools like the trench stove remind you that simple systems survive disruption far better than complicated ones. Applying this in your own prepping or historical reenactment work is straightforward. Take one weekend and eliminate all modern cooking gear. Build or buy a World War I-style stove and rely only on solid fuel. Practice boiling water, warming canned food, and heating beverages. Pay attention to how little fuel you actually need. Learn how to shield the flame with scrap metal or a small trench dug into the soil. Create a routine for rationing your fuel. These exercises build the muscle memory that separates casual preppers from truly capable ones. They also connect you to the practical, gritty day-to-day survival skills of the soldiers you study. The forgotten World War I survival stove earns its place in history because it represents ingenuity under pressure. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't pretty, but it turned freezing soldiers into functional fighters and taught lessons that modern survivalists should still embrace. If you want to strengthen your fieldcraft, strip away unnecessary gear and start with the same minimal tools the Tommies used under fire. You'll come away with sharper instincts and a deeper respect for the past. If you enjoyed this breakdown and appreciate historical tools that still earn their place today, make sure you subscribe, share this with another history lover, and keep exploring with us here on The Prepper Historian.